What position would I play? Good question, Tony.
Wide receiver, I think.
You know, when I did 8th grade, I was a wide receiver. I didn't play, but I was a wide receiver on the team. And then there was the game that we were blowing the other team out by like 28. So they pulled all of the defense, and then they put me as a cornerback, which I had practiced 0 games at.
Right.
And the first play, they gave up a touchdown, and then the starting defensive unit was very upset with us, and they go, the starters still have a shutout, the starters still have a shutout. It's like, guys, you're in 8th grade, all right? Like, accomplish something in your life, okay? Not this game against Gulliver Prep, please.
You were the rangy wide receiver?
I was I was tiny. I was 5'0", like 5'1" at the time. It was probably irresponsible to have me on the team because I was getting like rocked by kids who had already gone through puberty and were like bigger than our parents.
Did you have many catches?
No, I played 1 game. Well, that's the thing about like 7th and 8th grade football is it's all just and maybe it was just my school. It's all just runs. They don't trust the quarterback to throw, and it's like coaches of 7th and 8th graders. If you're listening to me right now. You're not going to get an NFL head coaching job based on how you do in 7th and 8th grade. Let the kids just air it out every once in a while because it does not matter what your record is in 7th and 8th grade.
It does matter, but if you have the biggest kid on the team, you hand them the ball every single time. That's what you do. I mean, at that age, yes, you do.
No, it's not. Especially when
if you want to win.
My high school ran the Paul Johnson triple option offense. And it was horrendous. It was so bad because not only did we run the triple option offense, but we lost a lot. And so every year it'd be like, everyone come round to homecoming. And people would show up. We didn't even have an on-campus stadium. We had to drive to somebody else's stadium. And even still, a lot of people showed up. And it was terrible. Nobody wants to see the triple option offense in high school. I completely agree with Billy. You're not the next Tom Landry. Get over yourself. Line up in the shotgun and throw some passes.
The next Tom Landry is not something that I was expecting to hear come out of your mouth. You're not the next Tom Landry. It was just an interesting choice.
I was thinking for legendary coaches, for whatever reason, the Rolodex stopped on Tom Landry.
That's odd.
It's weird that it would be a Rolodex as well. It's just random coaches. Tom Landry sounds legendary enough. I've got to get to these calls. They've been on hold for 2 hours. They've been on hold since the local hour, since I mentioned it the first time, because I want greetings. You guys, I've seen now every time we take a break, everyone's now over greeting everyone in the kitchen and everywhere else. This environment has gotten appreciably friendlier. I don't know if it'll last, but everyone suddenly cares about what everyone else is feeling.
I don't like it. It's a hello contest now.
Yep,
this
annoying.
Can't last long. For my own sanity, this can't last long.
Everyone's trying to outdo everyone
sanity.
else.
What do you for your own sanity? You can't say hello to people. You can't give them a good greeting, a good how you doing, a good you all right.
Well, no, because it's I don't know if anyone else got this. It's very passive aggressive right now. The hellos, yeah. Especially that Mike over there in the corner, Mike Fuentes.
Yeah.
No, wait a minute. He's a very happy.
He just came around the entire room.
Aggressive.
Shaking
it wasn't
hands.
even passive.
That'll get stomped out of him.
Very aggressive.
No, but he's been this since he got here. He's been a very happy. I've noticed it because he's so much happier and more pleasant than everyone else here.
Well, he doesn't have to sit in the cold studio. He gets to sit out in the warmer part of the office, Dan. So I feel like
you
that's
missed it when this
it.
studio was the face of the sun for like 3 weeks.
I'm
Jeez,
still bummed about it. I
horrible.
could have finally worn my Miami clothes that I bought when I moved here.
Mike is aggressively friendly.
Something like he's hiding something, right? Like
Why
sometimes
are we
people
so
are
cynical of
too
people
nice.
who are
You're like,
nice?
what's going
I don't
on here,
understand.
buddy?
Guillermo, I'll put it on the poll at LeBatard Show.
Such a distrustful environment.
Why can't we just be happy and say hello to each other and be cordial in the morning?
He has a cardigan like every day, and it's like, what's going on here?
Put on the poll, if people are aggressively friendly, are they hiding something? Let's take some of these calls. It's been a long time. We're trying to get less rusty. Stugotz is now doing some occasional wake and takes. This part is going to be hard because we used to have a rule back when we took calls.
When's the last time you said Mike on a mobile phone?
It's been a long time since we took any kind of calls as a show. I think it was just fake Sean Connery's, and I think we did it as an act of defiance in our last month at ESPN about 3 or 4 times. That is not what we're going to do now, though. We are just asking, and this part's hard. I don't know how we're going to do this because the people who have been with us longest know that our first rule One of our only rules was no pleasantries. If you call, don't say, hey, how you doing? Because you don't actually
The
care.
irony.
Right.
That's
I mean,
correct.
that was a culture setter. That was a tone setter. From there, everyone around here decided that we can eschew pleasantries and are not important to our daily
Well,
life.
now we're going to take them back because now we are aggressively soliciting pleasantries. So, Gilbert, you are on. We're going to just take this call, and we've got a bunch of calls ready. They've been holding for an hour, Stugotz.
What line is he on?
Line 1.
We're rusty.
Yes, Gilbert on line 1. What is your go-to pleasantry?
Hey, Dan, how you doing?
So it's me versus you. My dad's in town. Can I offer him an invitation?
And I tell you, I don't wish that girl any bad luck, but I hope she gets hit with a car.
He's got AIDS.
Go Ed Malloy! I love selling blood!
Stitches.
I missed that.
So the rule is give you the pleasantry, but don't actually give you a pleasantry
That's right.
before you give the
This is
pleasantry.
why it's-
This
There's
is
gotta
why
be-
it could be confusing.
There's got to be a lot of people confused by what they
well,
just heard.
here's to add to kind of to the
Yes.
confusion.
Jessica
Explain it for
Jessica
them.
is one of them. Jessica is one of them.
Explain it for those in the audience
this
who
is-
may not know what they just heard.
Go ahead, Billy.
So part of the confusion here is we also are not on live today. So these people's instruction is strictly just a tweet that says, what is your pleasantry? 786-456-4837. So they're calling with no guidance.
Can they hear this? Like,
No.
did they hear
I have
Dan's
no
setup?
idea.
No.
I don't
Let's
know.
ask Gilbert.
Well, hold
Gilbert,
on.
can you hear this?
Well, he's
Ask
gone.
someone.
No, Gilbert, we hung
Just
up
pick
on
up
him.
and ask anyone. Can they hear us
Gilbert!
right now?
No, we are going
Gilbert!
We got to explain this to Jessica because we just played an assortment
To
of
the audience,
sounds
yes.
that Jessica does
The
not
audience.
understand.
Jessica knows. The audience doesn't. Yeah.
For the audience.
When we originally started
You don't
this
have the
show,
mic.
if people would call in and say, "Hey, how you doing, Dan?" we would hit them with a guillotine, not take the call. It was the only rule. Do not start the call with a pleasantry because if I tell you I'm leaking spinal fluid when you ask me how I'm doing, you're going to say, "And how do you think Tua's hips look?" You don't care how I'm doing. So we just instituted the rule that it's inefficient to ask me how I'm doing. You don't actually care.
But for this, you want their fake pleasantries. You don't want a real one.
I don't want
Right.
them to start their call with the pleasantry. I want them to just tell me what their go-to pleasantry is to a stranger when they're saying hello, and they just want to say what's up.
Do you want to explain the origin of the suey now with Luther
Yes,
Campbell?
well, you can explain that to Jessica and the audience as well.
The audience.
Well, Luther Campbell heard the Kobe Bryant rap song, and he thought it was terrible. He said it was hot garbage. It was sewage. Suey. That's where the word came from.
Okay, I know that part, but why do you play?
And now this guillotine
the audience
assortment
is
of
wondering
sounds,
why
yes.
you play that as your guillotine.
The club was an assortment of sounds, and all of these are just inside jokes. Every last one of these sounds is an inside joke, including Tommy Lasorda saying what is the woman? Stiviano.
V. Stiviano?
V. Stiviano, what he says, the old voice you hear, I don't wish her any ill will, but I hope she gets hit by a car. All of these,
Normal, yes.
every last one of them is a joke.
So it's me versus you. My dad's in town. Can I offer him an invitation?
And I tell you, I don't wish that girl any bad luck, but I hope she gets hit with a car.
He's got AIDS.
Go Ed Malloy! I love selling blood!
The Stitches cameo is certainly the one that is the most random.
You're wishing her the worst possible luck. I mean,
And Sajak with the yarn.
That's right. That was Pat Sajak yelling yarn because he secretly hates Vanna White because she's got a successful yarn business. And it was the end of a tirade. Let's go out to Adam. Adam, you're on the podcast. Adam, what is your go-to pleasantry? Adam, Armando, what is your
Somebody.
Armando, anybody?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Armando, what is your go-to pleasantry?
Rise and grind, baby.
oh, I hate you.
That's a good answer.
That's the worst.
Good answer.
Tweet it out every morning. Oh, the worst. Rising grind.
But here's the thing. If Chris would have
Jesus.
texted Kristen this morning, rise and grind, breakfast sandwiches, it would have been weird too.
Also, yeah, the grinding does not really connote breakfast sandwiches.
No, it connotes coffee.
Huh.
Good point.
Never thought of it that way, Roy.
Megan, Megan, you're on the podcast. What is your go-to pleasantry?
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day.
Wow, very
Annoying.
pleasant.
Annoying.
Annoying.
Megan, you're annoying. Thank you for calling. Yeah, too much.
What? Oh, you're too
Deserved.
chipper.
Enough. Yeah, you need like an hour of being awake before you get that energy.
Too aggressively pleasant? Is that what you're saying?
Get over yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
You gave the Family Feud answer. You clapped at Rise and Grind Baby, but I'm not sure we love Rise and Grind
I hate
Baby.
it.
Rise and Grind Baby guy, do we? Billy, what are you laughing about?
It's just a unique way to say hello.
Yeah. It's going well.
It's an annoying way to say hello.
Billy, what are you laughing about? Why are you throwing your
Just
head back
this
and
is
laughing?
fun. Having a good day. Good morning, everyone. Yeah.
We're taking calls, Dan. I mean,
Is this Neek who's calling? Neek, what is your go-to
That's
pleasantry?
Kike.
that's a fine.
It's the spelling's bad.
The other way of
Blame it on the
spelling it was,
spelling.
Go to
you know,
Bo.
Right.
problematic. So
Kike, what is your go-to pleasantry, Kike?
Hey, good morning.
That's it.
Okay.
I think you got caught up there, man. You were saying hi to us. I mean,
he got right to the point.
John, what is your go-to pleasantry, John?
Morning, sunshine.
Kind of creepy.
I'm gonna punch you in the face. You say that to me.
seriously.
Rise and grind.
Reporting that to HR if someone says that to me around here.
Rise and grind, baby, is the
It was the
best
first
we
one we
got.
heard, Dan. I got excited. What do you want from me?
Do I keep going with
Yes.
this, or do I let it go? Do I keep giving out the telephone numbers? And
We don't
keep
have any more
taking
names,
calls?
so just say,
All
caller,
right.
you're up.
Say caller on line 1.
All right, caller on line 1, you're up. What's your go-to pleasantry?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Caller on line 2, you're up. What's your go-to pleasantry? caller on line 3, what's your go-to pleasantry?
This is why we stopped taking calls. I mean,
Can you tell me what your relationship with Donald Sterling is?
I'm Mr. Sterling's right-hand arm, man. I'm Mr. Sterling everything. I'm his confidant, his best friend, his silly rabbit.
His what?
His silly rabbit.
His silly rabbit?
Yes.
Is that what he calls you?
No,
That's
I
what
call
you-
myself
I
that.
see, okay.
Did she say no?
Yes.
Is that
that's
what
what
he
she
calls
calls
you?
herself.
What is your favorite part? If you only can pick one part, let's play it for the audience again. You're only allowed to pick one part of this V. Stiviano interview with Barbara Walters, who doesn't exactly steal the show, but comes damn close, because this was a go-to interview. And again, this brought down the entire Donald Sterling thing.
The Clippers have never been the same.
They've only been better.
Steve Ballmer owns the Clippers now because of this. Now, we were discussing the Suey montage during the break, and we were like breaking it down piece by piece. So we were reliving the time of the V. Stiviano interview with Barbara Walters and the Donald
Because
Sterling
in the
interview with Anderson Cooper.
In the Suey, all you heard was Donald Sterling this was the rehab interview meant to clean up the image. He said, Big Magic Johnson, what has he ever done? He got AIDS. And then you got the rest of Donald Sterling needs to get on up out of here. But go ahead and play the whole thing. You're only allowed to pick one part. We're going to go around the room.
Can you tell me what your relationship with Donald Sterling is?
I'm Mr. Sterling's right-hand arm, man. I'm Mr. Sterling everything. I'm his confidant, his best friend, his silly rabbit.
His what?
His silly rabbit.
His silly rabbit?
Yes.
Is that what he calls you?
No,
That's
I
what
call
you-
myself
I
that.
see, okay.
His what? It has to be his
yes.
what, right?
No,
I mean,
His
the
what?
best is
Yes.
she says no. She says, so is that what he calls you? No.
his hand arm, man.
The follow-ups. Barbara Walters is an extraordinary interviewer, and so she does some stuff here in some really small windows. Her spit, her acidic, her instantaneous and expert surgical, his what?
Because you're sitting at home and you're saying the same exact thing to yourself. His what?
Okay, but the follow-up is better than the his what, because the follow-up, the genius of knowing to ask, he calls you that and getting the money answer of no. He doesn't call me that, making the silly rabbit even more absurd.
His silly rabbit.
His what?
His silly rabbit.
His silly rabbit?
Yes.
Is that what he calls you?
No,
That's
I
what
call
you-
myself
I
that.
see, okay.
Barbara Walters was probably like 85 years old when she was conducting this interview, and as sharp as she's ever been.
Took out Donald Sterling surgically, all of that. She arrived at that interview, V. Stiviano did, in a welding mask that was fashionable.
Did she do the interview in the welding mask?
No, she did not, but she
Yeah.
was, a lot of pictures were taken around town, and adding yet another layer of funny, not funny to it. The Clippers ownership changed because Donald Sterling didn't want her hanging out with black dudes. Didn't want her hanging out with Magic Johnson.
Details are so gross.
Oh my God.
Ugh.
But you mentioned this, Whittingham, and I was thinking, and I'm getting away from the silliness here, but you say the details are gross, and I thought of this yesterday because I know over the last year we have spent a lot of time talking about everything shitty that's happening in America, and now you have hearings about January 6th, and something that I never thought I would see in my lifetime. I don't think any of us thought we would see this in our lifetime. The ability of a racist criminal oaf, misogynist, turd, criminal, mafia head, everything that pathological liar, all the things that Donald Trump has proven to be, corrupt. I don't know whether I mentioned racist. But on top of that, we now have, in an inundated shame market, because he's had 10,000 Watergates, we have tapes of him trying to push around attorney generals to overturn an election, an attack on democracy and freedom. Again, but there have been so many scandals that any one of them could be Watergate. The idea, if this were a reasonable presidency that wasn't incapable of shame, this would bring down any president. Just this alone would bring down.
He would never be able to run for office again. He would have no support. That there was a critical mass. For a time, if you go back and look at the polling, Richard Nixon had a critical mass of support, and then enough of these tapes came out, and enough reporting came out, and I believe the Watergate hearings lasted for like 55 days. It was every day new information, and at a certain point in that arc, his approval ratings tanked, and he was forced to resign. But I just don't know.
Trump's is going up.
Well, I mean,
It's
amongst his base, like we don't
Yes.
know, like until we have the midterm elections, until he runs for office again. If he can win the Republican primary, which all indications are that he would be able to easily, we just don't know if there's any reaching through that information bubble ecosystem.
The thing, though, that I wanted to talk to you about from yesterday, okay, if you're not appalled by the 10,000 Watergates that you could be appalled by here, was the heartbreaking testimony of Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman, Stugotz, who have had their lives totally ruined because they just tried to help out with the electoral process and felt the full weight of the government and threats and criminality and mafia behavior just ruined their lives of this woman and her mother, like in terms of weight gain. They can't go anywhere. They're feeling threatened by everybody. I can't even
It's
imagine.
heartbreaking,
I mean,
yes.
and this is being done by the presidency and the power to American citizens that it's supposed to protect in an area of the country where he's saying, what do you mean I can't get the votes in Georgia in the South? I can always get my racist votes in Georgia or the South. Like what do you mean? History means that throughout the Civil War or anything else, I can go get my votes in Georgia, find me my votes. And to have it be that brazen and to have the tapes is a kind of heartbreaking. These people were ruined, and I would not. Again, never mind. I heard Rachel Maddow saying the other day they did nothing wrong, but never mind not doing anything wrong while being accused of corruption just through lies that was not corruption, and just the president, just a whole bunch of people ruining the lives of people who were just trying to take care of democracy. A woman who brought her mother to the polls because they just needed more eyes to make sure that democracy is taken care of. It's not just that they weren't doing anything wrong. It's that they were doing everything that you would want right to protect democracy. And the guy with the power and his allies turned it into something that ruined their lives. And I genuinely don't know, Stugotz. I'm old enough to remember here, for those of you listening, time. Like Rudy Giuliani wasn't always a clown. It was 20 years ago. The man was a hero. Like it's not just because of the Rico statue stuff he did in cleaning up New York. After 9/11, when
He was a hero,
a whole
Dan.
lot of Americans just sort of learned at once, whoa, what do you mean everybody hates us? What do you mean the world hates us so much? They hate commerce and trade so much that we'd fly buildings into us. We're threatened. All of us learned at the same time we're under duress. And in that moment, Rudy Giuliani looked like he could be president of the United States. And now he's just a lunatic, drunk person who will disgrace himself at every turn and a criminal. And it's impossible to have predicted that over the last 20 years.
How could you? I mean, as you stated, a guy who led New York City in particular, but really the country through one of its worst times in American history, 9/11, and then also cleaned up parts of that city that, quite frankly, people in New York City never thought would be cleaned up. Like Lower West Side, that area, got the drugs out of there, like really did a fantastic job.
Lord knows
right?
how he did some of those things, because in retrospect, I'm sure the cleaning up of New York, and I don't know what the history of that is, but I'm sure that has, given what we've since seen from his behavior, that is just rooted in all manner of immorality.
There was enormous racial overtones.
My guess
at the
is
time,
that cleanup had a lot to do with just throwing a whole bunch of black people in jail. That generally tends to be how that goes.
The stop and frisk. That's exactly what they did in New York. The police just pulled over, stopped and frisked any person, any minority that they wanted, and then boom, right into jail. That was it. That's how he cleaned up New York.
But Roy, it was impossible, even with that said, it was impossible to see what Giuliani would become. I mean, which is a clown.
Yeah, I mean, he
right?
didn't, like, the public sentiment shifted once he became a MAGA personality that was, the first big outspoken supporter of Trump. And then people started to dig in and realize, oh, this guy who was a hero was not actually who we thought he was at the time, as probably a lot of people did. The George Bush thing turned a lot quicker, but a lot of people go back and examine what were at the time popular policy and realize they're racial overtones, it's not even tones, just flat out racism. And then once this stuff starts to escalate, you realize just how completely full of shit everyone was at the time and now and through it all.
Whatever your politics, and it was really unpleasant here recently because, again, something that the conversation that we did with Tafoya Stugotz, these are not productive things. Never mind just the doing of conversations. For more than a decade now, it's been unpleasant to be someone who continually gets thrown. And before I even understood what was happening, Stugotz, before I knew who Steve Bannon was, before I understood what Breitbart was, I didn't know anything from these worlds. Anytime I would argue on behalf of black athlete can be showy, I was liberal guy turned into a political tool before I understood what it is that was happening. And now our Tafoya interview has become that from last week, where it gets taken and weaponized, and then the ugliness of the internet happened. So I want to read to you some of the commentary that has been coming our way, because it has been insulting, and I imagine usually you guys enjoy when people are insulting me. So I'm getting a lot of this over the last few days. I had no idea Dan Le Batard was even still around. He has not been relevant for over a decade. So you're saying I was relevant?
It's a long time, a decade. I mean,
but you're saying I was relevant. Somebody else writes in here, Dan has gotten fat, really fat. So you're saying I wasn't?
You were skinny.
You're saying at
Congrats.
one point I was not.
And that was in response to the Tafoya interview. That's very nice.
This one I don't understand here. I don't know what a soy boy is. It might be an insult. It might just be a word that rhymes with boy is soy. And so I am now being called a soy boy. I don't know what this insult is. But I have been called a soy boy. I'm as big a soy boy as any of them. I'm a coward, and I would be one of the first to go if society were to fall off. I have to agree with that. That's not even bad or unfair controversy. If the apocalypse befell us and Mike and Whitty ran in another direction, I'd be standing there fiddling with my Zoom mic until wolves overtook me.
Until you fell off.
And dragged me into the ocean.
I love that the first priority in an apocalypse is jump on a Zoom and the microphone settings don't work.
I will be dragged into the ocean
That's on you.
with a truck, an American flag, and truck testicles. I will be dragged into the ocean as I love this as a sentence. He's a coward and would be one of the first to go if society were to fall off. Such a great phrase.
If society is to fall off, wouldn't you want to be one of the first people to go?
What's the point of
Like,
sticking
exactly.
around?
If everyone's-
I'd like a day or two of just seeing what it's like.
Yeah, but
wild.
like, you don't want to be 2 months in when
Well,
the
obviously,
world's falling.
I'm saying in this scenario, it's happening. So I'd like to, survive a couple days.
Fend for yourself.
Just check it out.
See what's going on.
Yeah. I'm with you. It'd be terrifying. It'd be like we're used to living like, I can go home and just sleep and don't have to worry about it.
So you'd want to live in the purge for 24 hours.
I
just
wouldn't
to see
want
what it was
to.
like.
I wouldn't choose this. I'm saying if the purge started, I wouldn't want to be one of the first killed. I'd want to
See if you
survive.
can make
for-
it.
I want to be
Right.
like killed on like the third day.
Right.
You guys get it.
You want to see some of it before you go, but get taken out early so you
Right.
don't have to
I don't need a
live.
week of that.
You don't need a week of I'm scared while taking
Well, what
a
do you
shower.
want to
This is the
see?
sweet spot,
I
Dan.
just want to run around, maybe
What it's like.
maybe loot a McDonald's or something.
Oh,
You
Do you
want
want
to
to survive
looting.
it? Like,
If everyone's okay, if the purge starts and
Why would
everyone's
you
looting,
loot
you guys aren't going to loot.
McDonald's?
Where would you loot?
loot. It's loot.
loot.
Are you
I am
looting?
saying you guys
You're
you're just not hearing the
No,
way
you're
I'm
saying
saying.
looting.
Yeah,
It
no,
sounds
he's
like
right,
you're
he's right.
looting.
No, he's right.
You're
Yeah.
looting a McDonald's. Like you're walking in there wearing only your
No,
socks.
when you're nude,
Which I could see
and
you
when you're
doing.
nude and you loot, it's looting.
There
That's
you
what
go.
You guys don't see.
Well,
what
no,
I'm
now
doing.
you said it
What
right.
does McDonald's have that you would want to loot?
I know I'd have
from
to
it?
turn on the fryers and stuff.
It's a weird
Yeah.
admission for you to make.
You don't want to
that-
do that nude.
Normally
Yeah.
people loot like
All right, where would you loot?
Walgreens and steal like prescription medication and antibiotics for the zombies
That's
in case
too
they fight them.
Smetty would aim higher, Chris. to
Wait, are
answer your
zombies just
question.
sick?
Yeah, they give you bacteria. You need to take antibiotics
Huh.
in case you have like an injury or a
So I give them like
wound.
Flonase and then they're not zombies anymore?
Yeah, it's helpful to have a little cup of doxy when the zombies come and bite you.
Most people just go in and grab TVs, right? Isn't that what most looting is? Just getting a TV.
Well, we're talking about in the apocalypse. What are you going to do with a TV?
That's a
during
good
the
question.
apocalypse?
Who's broadcasting,
You
though?
need to loot a prescription drugstore. And
Stephen A.
steal
Smith will be
medication.
broad-
Of course you will. And
First
Skip.
aid.
Right. No, but Woody is right. You do grab electronics. It seems like people, they go to the electronics store first and grab a TV.
But at the end,
Skip will be doing LeBron MJ while society is falling.
Somebody's
right?
running with a television under their arm, and Skip is yelling, "LeBron will never be as good as MJ."
You can't barter a TV for something during the apocalypse. Antibiotics you can barter.
The assumption is, I assume, when you're rioting, that you are not going to spend the rest of your life rioting, and therefore society will return to normal, and you will be able to use that television. That it's not.
Witty's got 7 TVs now he can sell.
but society's
Flipsky.
fallen.
Right,
Do you
it's
think it's
fallen
going to
off,
come
Dan.
back?
They said,
Yeah.
no, once it's
Right,
fallen.
what programming is
But
on?
you're reattaching society.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Right.
Skip's going to be in a studio screaming at a camera
There's
that's
no
not
Wi-Fi.
on. Yeah, I imagine the professionalism of like the camera operators and such will be down at the time when society has fallen.
Not great jobs in an apocalypse.
Well,
and-
no job, really. I mean, look? If the world's over, like I have bad news for you guys. I'm not going to be here to be recording Big Suey. Okay.
Looting's gonna sit with me for a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's a bad admission for you to secretly make that all of a sudden you've been given.
Well, no, just the mispronouncing of it is really gonna sit.
Oh,
The
just-
McDonald's thing I'm actually proud of.
Right. Shake it off, all right?
Wait, so Chris, you were trying to cover for the fact that you thought it was a T, but you pronounced it as a like. I actually believed you. I believed you that you actually think that it's LOOT. But you didn't hit the
It's
hard
one of those
T.
things that I just wasn't thinking about. If you made me spell it, like before any context, if you're like spell loot, I would have like spelt it right, I think. But I just said it and I just got caught.
You're not sure. Let's make the full admission.
No,
How
I
would
think
you
I would have spelled it right. No, I think I would have. Because what am I going to spell? What am I going to spell? LOOD? Like that is clearly
LEWD.
No, I know it. Looting is LOOT, right?
Yes.
Yeah. See, that's what I mean. Like I know
Right.
how it's spelled. Like it's just.
You just can't say it.
Yeah, it's early, guys.
So
It's not that early anymore.
It's really not that early anymore.
It's not that
what would
early
you
anymore.
steal from McDonald's?
Wedding week.
He didn't want to steal. He wanted to. He wanted
Lewd,
to
yeah.
loot. He wanted.
He wanted to
Fry
lewd.
some French fries.
You
I would
know,
take sauces.
See if the ice cream machine's working.
It's
never
not.
working. It's never
I've actually
I don't know why you're
noticed
asking that
the last few years they're better about their ice cream machines.
When it's working, you know it's the end of times.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean by better? Like, what do you mean?
Well, there's like it's famously like they don't work. You say, "Can I get a vanilla milkshake?" They're like, "Ice cream machine's not working." That's like a McDonald's thing.
Right.
But I've noticed the last few years that doesn't happen. It's not that I'm getting McDonald's. By the way, while we're here admitting shameful things, I actually had one of these the other day in terms of low points in your life.
Oh.
Let's all think about
How
this.
was this weekend?
Well, see, Tony, thank you for bringing that back up. Thank you for bringing that back
You did
up.
this to yourself, Tony.
Tony looked up from his table at a bachelor party with his friends and questioned some life decisions.
I think I can go lower than that though. I had one this weekend. Wow. Okay, it's 12. It's like midnight on a weekend. Your wife's asleep, and you're hungry, and you're gonna order. You're gonna order some late night, maybe McDonald's McFlurry or something.
You love McDonald's.
And so you set your order in, and it's getting delivered. The driver is getting your order. You're up first, and they're on their way. I send this message to my driver, and this is the low point. Oh no! Please don't knock. I don't want my wife to hear you.
You're entering into a secret alliance with a stranger.
Can you turn your headlights off as you pull in?
So that your wife doesn't catch
I
you.
hit send on that, and I was just like, this is low.
Ordering
Shame-filled.
Because I'm an open book with my wife, and this is me lying to her.
Do you have to
Like
eat
this
it
is
in
the big
secret?
lie in my life with my wife, and it's just I feel like shit. I'm like trying to open a McDonald's bag because they seal these things expertly, and I'm in the living room, and my master bedroom is on the first floor, so I am having to quietly rip open those seals.
Yeah, you need
those
scissors.
It's the one downside
Did
of
you
these.
think about doing it outside?
Go in the bathroom and turn on the sink.
Yeah, I like to live dangerously. It's
Wow. Sensual, taboo, you're having the forbidden McFlurry.
With the pandemic, one of the things that's come out of it is now these Uber and DoorDash places overseal everything, which is good. I know no one's messing with, but late at night when you
It's
want
hard
to
to
be
be
quiet,
quiet
it's
when
hard
you're
to open
secret
these
eating.
like seals. It's like try to quietly rip a seal. Not easy.
But I feel like giving them instructions is a very dangerous game. Meaning, if you tell them not to knock, they're going to pound the door. Like that's
not true.
That's what I would do. I mean,
Why? But if you're
there's a reason he's
tipping them.
asking me. So
But
what?
it's
There's a
based on
reason.
tips.
Listen, nothing's keeping you from that McFlurry. Okay, nothing. Even if he pounds on the door. And for me, that would be a sign like, hey, this guy doesn't want his significant other to know. And
So
I'm
I'm
going to
gonna
let her know.
Just an asshole for no good reason. That sounds about right. Stugotz
You'd get a
just
horrible
being just
tip
for no
for-
reason.
yeah.
That's all right.
Self-destructive to be an asshole. The
Midnight,
Stugotz, the Stugotz
I'm
way.
entertaining myself.
Were you guys aware before yesterday that John Wall could opt into a $47 million contract?
What?
Yes. That's because
Where?
his contract has been volleyballed around. He's in Houston, Stugotz. But his contract has been volleyballed around because when I think like the moment he signed it, he had torn his Achilles or something, and he has never been the same guy. That's been the worst contract in the league. It was the only contract that Houston can get for Russell Westbrook, because that at the time was among the worst contracts in the NBA.
You say that, but I learned the other day, Billy, every time we're talking about the Angels here, I don't understand why we do this. We inflict some judgment on Trout and Ohtani, the players that we know on the Angels who
just
have
Trout.
failed,
Ohtani's, great.
who have not won. But why doesn't Rendon get anything? Why doesn't?
Well, he hasn't played.
No one expects him to do anything.
What do you mean? They gave him $250 million.
Yeah, no, but
He's just not a big name. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Talent-wise, he deserves to be in there, but he just doesn't.
But this, when you talk about one of the worst contracts in sports, you're talking about Rendon has been terrible for them, and I know what John Wall is making. Why doesn't anybody care what Anthony Rendon is making?
Makes $36 million.
Because he's a baseball player.
Right.
He's going to make $38 million for the next four seasons.
But how do you get that amount of money and none of the responsibility for the Angels not being any good?
Like you have the greatest baseball player ever, we're told, on your team.
Who's being great and plays and earns his money.
Yeah, but never wins.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Because Anthony Rendon stinks as his teammate.
Madden was a manager.
Easy to blame Rendon.
Exactly.
He's had injury problems, right? I'm looking at his stats.
He hasn't played more than 58 games the last 3 seasons, like in one season. So since he signed that contract, he had the big year in Washington, 34, 126, and then signed that free agent contract, and he hasn't played more than 58 games in a season.
I just don't know why you guys do that to Trout, though. Like, we know that baseball is essentially an individual sport now. That Mike Trout, for as good as he is worth at maximum 7 or 8 wins a season, that we just know like a baseball player can only contribute so much. It's weird to me that Trout would get any of that, considering you look at his numbers, you look at his WAR, like he is worth the 7 or 8 wins that you pay for. It's the other guys on the team that are not.
You got to win like 95 to get to the playoffs, so do more than 7, Trout.
Like that is what wins above replacement is. He can only get you 7 or 8 wins. There's nobody in baseball that's getting you 25.
But Whitty, it's odd to have the best player in baseball and one of the greatest players to ever play baseball, and your team's never good.
But that's baseball. Like it's an organizational. It's an organizational failure.
A-Rod got $252 million, twice the contract of Kevin Garnett, the largest in the history of sports. And he went to Texas. He did not go to Texas thinking he would fail.
That's
he
fair.
took up so much of the payroll. He finished in last place because you can absolutely. You mentioned the Hawk earlier in the show. He won MVP on a last place team. You can absolutely be great, and you know
Yeah,
this.
but consistently great and consistently bad. A-Rod did have winning seasons. He had him in Seattle. He had him with the Yankees on better teams, granted.
Stugotz, baseball, you know this. You've been watching sport for how long? You can have the greatest player in the... Barry Bonds never won a title. And what? What does that have to do with how great he was?
I mean, I feel like if you look at like the top 10 greatest players of all time, you will find a lot of winning within that top 10, and he's considered to be a top 10. I understand the game. It's, it's a team sport, but it's really an individual sport, and you can't really blame Trout for much more. You can only handle so much.
If he played on the Yankees, he'd be great and he'd win titles. If he played on the Dodgers, no, he wouldn't.
I mean, you're assuming. I don't know. I don't know how it changes their dynamic. I know he's never won, and I know some of the greatest players of all time have won.
Changes their dynamic. There's no dynamic to change.
Some people can't handle it.
It's a winning organization. You're bringing in a loser. I mean,
yeah.
If you had Rendon on your parlay card for today, you are getting paid.
Crazy. I haven't thought about him since the Nationals.
Rendon before Gronk. Let's empty the Gronk file here as he retires yet again. And even Drew Rosenhaus was saying yesterday, if Tom Brady needs some help late in the season, I expect, it's just my opinion, but I expect that Gronk will come out of retirement. But Gronk, I don't blame him. The trained polar bear does not want to go through the physical strain of training camp and the first 8 weeks and whatever horror is football. So maybe he'll come back late in the season if Brady needs help, and he might need help because they are thinner than they've been at receiver because Antonio Brown's not there. Godwin might not be healthy and right for a while, so Mike Evans is going to be the number one there, and they could certainly use Gronk. What are you laughing about, Billy?
Trout has 21 home runs already this year.
He's really
so
good.
His OPS plus is ridiculous. Like 180. It's absurd.
Look at the top 10 players who have ever lived, okay? Who have ever played the game. Clemente, I don't care who it is, Babe Ruth, Ken Griffey Jr., they've all won occasionally. That's all I'm saying, Whitty. All of them. They've won maybe not a World
Mike
Series.
Trout's problem. It is an organization.
Whose problem is it?
It's the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Winners win.
It's their problem.
That's what Draymond said. Yes, Draymond did say that winners win, even though they lost one year. Winners win because he couldn't stop kicking people in the junk.
By the way, Mike Trout's 162 game average for WAR is 10. So he's actually worth 10 wins this season. You
fool! Win 80 more.
Yes, that's right. Not enough. You're still 80 games back. If you only win 10. If you're 10 and 152.
You win 10, you're exactly right. That's a horrible team. 10 and 152.
Truly terrible. Thank you, Billy. Excellent contribution.
That's what that stat shows to me. He's really worth 152 losses a year.
That's right. Put it on the poll. Is Mike Trout...
He's so mad.
Is Mike Trout worth 10 wins a year, or is he worth 152 losses? Get the Gronk sounds here because we've loved to celebrate Gronk. Some people yesterday were sending around the video of Gronk on a set with Tony Gonzalez, Bill, I think it was Bill Cowher. It was the Sunday morning set, and he was laughing because he was just telling the story. Yeah, 2 years earlier, I was traded to Detroit, but when they called me, I picked up the phone and said, no, I'm not, I'm retired. Then I wasn't traded to Detroit anymore. I was still on the Patriots. And he giggled like an 8-year-old. Like he just giggled on the set like a toddler. They called me and they said I was traded to Detroit. I said, nah, I'm not traded to Detroit. I'm retired. And he continued being a Patriot. So how many things do we have from the file here that we can dump? And hopefully we will get many chances in the future to dump them again.
We have quite a few. We'll begin first. Bob Einstein.
to go with Gronkowski, who should be tested for something. Because I've never seen a human being like that go off the field, and he like snorts to his teammates. There's no English or anything spoken.
He is. He is made of circuits. You're absolutely
He really is. There's fire coming out of his helmet. And when he goes across the middle, forget it.
49ers and Redskins.
What do you think he says in the huddle besides slobbering and breathing and sneezing and stuff? Do you think he knows his own name when they say, Gronk, we're going to you? Or do they just tase him a little bit?
Give me some more of that. You started very strong there. Made me miss Bob Einstein, the late Bob Einstein. What else do you have there? We've got a series of songs and choirs.
Ha 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 hallelujah. Ha 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 hallelujah. They got those sexy bodies. Sorry for party rocking.
I love so much that the greatest tight end ever is an ape toddler.
He's not done. I mean, we know that.
Regardless, he's the greatest tight end ever. The highlights, seeing him, it is ridiculously unfair. It's like watching a robot made of stronger parts running through your secondary that cannot be guarded by mere mortals and humans who are much smaller than him. I saw a series of highlights. It's why the argument, you're still hearing it this week. I've heard a few people say, well, Peyton Manning was actually better than Tom Brady, you know? Peyton Manning was better than Tom Brady, even though that argument ended a long time ago. 7 titles to 1. It's an unwinnable argument for Peyton Manning, but many people say he was much harder to play against. But I saw a highlight tape of Gronk, and it was all Tom Brady 3-yard passes. Like
Right.
he was such a fountain of youth, and has been such a fountain of youth for Tom Brady.
It was Bart Scott who said that. Now, Bart Scott and those Jet teams, they struggled against the Colts and Peyton Manning and had some success against Tom Brady and the Patriots. He was making the
He
larger
wasn't the
point
only
of-
one saying it, though.
Right. Yeah, people agreed with him, which is strange, but Bart Scott started that, and that's based only on the results Bart Scott had against Peyton Manning.
Put on the poll, Guillermo. Does Bart Scott tend to always view things through the Bart Scott prism? At Le Batard Show. You are correct that all of Bart Scott's analysis is formed by the opinions and experiences of one Bart Scott. It's been that way for a long time.
Yeah.
But Dominique Foxworth said something similar. He's been on the show with us and told us of the level of practice and preparation that had to go into with Ed Reed, a Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever do it, to get an interception that impressed Belichick so much that on the NFL Network he wouldn't shut up about how amazing it was that Ed Reed and Dominique Foxworth had tricked Peyton Manning into one interception. And Dominique's on television saying, that was one interception. It took like a Hall of Famer totally tricking Peyton Manning.
Spending the entire week thinking about how they were going to do it.
Like, he's like, you don't understand the amount of effort that we had to put into that, while Tom Brady drops back and he's like, here, Gronk, 3 yards. See if you can take it 60. Just barreling over people with bolts flying into their face because you're made of metal and a bunch of jagged parts.
He had 2 of them. He had Aaron Hernandez as well.
and it's no disparagement to say that he had that help, because Belichick sort of reined in a new era of football using the tight end that way, right? The giant tight end who could be used as a wide receiver, who's not guardable, who burst Travis Kelce and Waller and all these guys throughout the league who are, you're like, how the hell do you guard any of these people with cornerbacks who are so small? Gronk brought all that in. There was no copycatting it. In that sport, it's all copycatting of success, right? Like, you can't copycat Gronk. You can only try.
Right.
That combination, you can make the argument. You can make the argument that sports hasn't seen much better combinations ever than Brady to Gronk.
You could easily make that argument, right? In
It's
terms
Montana,
of stats, in
Jerry.
terms of
It's
winning,
Montana,
yes.
Jerry Rice. But for comfort level, right? When I think of Gronk, Stugotz, when I think of what the Patriots had with that, the play that comes to mind, it's only one. It's what I believe to be the single most impressive victory in the Patriots era, going to Kansas City with a lesser team and beating Mahomes. And at the end of that game, the safety for Kansas City, Barry, knew what was coming. Kansas City, everybody knew what was coming. They knew what Brady was going to do. He was going to throw it to Gronk. They went to double coverage to Gronk. It didn't matter. And when you play football up there, where it takes Ed Reed and Dominique Foxworth a million machinations to get an interception, but now it's Brady to Gronk. It's not a stoppable thing. It's not even Peyton Manning to Reggie Wayne. It's if Brady and Gronk, with their chemistry, throw to a place, nobody in the history of football has been able to be the defender who stops it. It doesn't exist.
It's knowing that something is coming. You know it's coming. You've game planned for it, and yet you still can't stop it. It's incredible.
Some of the reporting from the last year was that there was almost no use game planning, the two of them, because they just did their own thing. They've played together so much that they don't even necessarily run plays. Gronk just knows the spots to run to, and it's like training. It's like training a dog, right?
It's Gronk, run there.
The ball will be there, Gronk.
Yeah, Gronk, just Gronk. It's not a dog. It's a polar bear, and it's just polar bear. Run to that spot and stick your ass out. And all those guys are much smaller than you. And I'll just throw it to where your paw is. And if you could train yourself to just throw it up and catch it. Imagine a train.
And then steamroll everyone.
But every time. I can imagine the early beginnings of this. Like as a rookie, he'd throw him into a spot and then bring him a Red Bull or an energy drink. And it's like you got to keep teaching him how it is to be better than everyone else.
Red Bull?
Time for an F1 minute? Are you ready to do an F1 minute? We did not get it this week, and we have missed...
an F1 minute on a Wednesday, Dano.
Do you also want to tell the people about the pod that you're doing with Spencer Hall? Because you guys have developed an infatuation with F1, and you're not... Spencer's been here for a long time. You're relatively new to the proceedings, but both of you have a great deal of passion for what it is that you're talking about.
Yes, Spencer and I have been recording like post-game or post-race recaps live on YouTube called DNF, and then they're posted in the DNF feed wherever you get your podcasts. So check
also
that
available
out.
on the Le Batard and Friends network feed, where we're publishing a lot of content. You'll want to subscribe to that feed because there's like 10 podcasts that are in there. So check it out. Le Batard and Friends feed, wherever you get your podcasts.
Why'd you break it? Because Woody got in your way there?
I was helping you out with the plug. I don't know. I don't understand. I didn't get in anybody's way.
I don't need your help. Play the sound, though. I actually do need you to do that.
I don't need your help. Play the sound.
Hit the button. I think Woody just went on strike.
It was like 5 seconds.
A short one, yeah.
Wildcat strike. Find out. Welcome to Montreal. Watch out for the groundhogs. On Saturday, Nicholas Latifi did just that. He hit a groundhog and it died. With a grid penalty, Charles Leclerc can't do much, and Max Verstappen takes pole position. Alonso's in P2. Will he hit Verstappen on turn 1? It's lights out and away we go. Verstappen runs away at turn 1 and takes a commanding lead, but his teammate Sergio Perez retires his car on lap 9. Red Bull's fourth mechanical failure of the season. After a week of fighting, the Mercedes looks worse than ever, but wait, no, it's better now? Lewis and George Russell are both pushing for a podium. McLaren's bad luck continues, and a shit stop, slows down both Danny Ricciardo and Baby Lando mid-race. On lap 46, Carlos Sainz is ahead of Verstappen and Leclerc pushes to 8th. But wait, another safety car. Yuki Tsunoda is off the track. Carlos pits under the safety car and Verstappen takes the lead, but on older tires, Verstappen defends against Sainz for the final laps of the race. Leclerc pushes to 5th, and the race ends with Lewis Hamilton on the podium once more. Verstappen commands the Drivers' Championship, which is slipping away from Ferrari, much like the life slipped away out of the groundhog that Nicholas Latifi murdered. Oh, Canada. Oh, the humanity.